After dressing up for Spirit Day, a Scott County high school student is being called racist by the NAACP. JCPS says they're just may have to stop taking some kids to school. And Beshear's political theater has reached new heights of hilarity. I'll have all that and more today on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. But please first, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe as always. And to those watching this on video on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you can always listen to it in an audio only format on the podcasting platforms like Spotify and Apple. It makes it easier sometimes for you to be able to take it on the go, listen in the car, so on and so forth. And I do want a small note here. Recently we've been growing an awful lot. And of course, with that attention comes some people with opinions. Most of these people who have reached out to me with negative opinions have been people that I have talked about on the show and don't like my cutting honesty. But I do this in order to present maybe a viewpoint a little bit different than what you're going to hear every day on the news. A viewpoint from somebody who actually knows many of the people I'm talking about, have talked to them many a time, shaken their hands, while at the same time is aware of what's going on behind the scenes. Somebody who has done that political circuit, but now is not somebody who's leeching off the political circuit. You see those people who know all the things I know, while at the same time are concerned with what their political futures may be, are afraid to say and do some of the things that I'm saying and doing. And I will continue to talk this way as long as people continue to listen. And it seems more and more of you are listening. But I do ask that you please share this with your friends and your family and everybody else, at least, even if you don't agree with me. And I know a lot of you are not going to agree with me every time. There are some points you may disagree with me on. At least we're presenting a different viewpoint. And also, too, as well, remember to leave a review, but only if you do like the show. As always, if you don't like the show, we'll just, I don't know, go write it down somewhere else, but not on the actual podcast thing. So anyways, without further ado, let's dig down into it. So a Scott County high school boy there, Scott County here in Kentucky, is in the Scott County schools as well, is under fire from the NAACP after a boy covered himself in black paint, head to toe. Here's a picture of it, though. Those of you who can see, those of you who can't see, it's just a high school boy covered in black paint from head to toe. He's wearing black shorts as well. And then, he's shirtless wearing black paint. Now, as I'm saying this to you, you'll say, wow, was he in blackface? Was he doing this to somehow attack black people? Did he just randomly throw black paint on himself and decide to run around through the halls as some sort of evil racist thing, and that's why the NAACP is calling it racist? Well, no, actually, in this case, the boy in question was at a football game. You can see he's on a football field there, and the Spirit Night theme was blackout. So you have a school where they're having a blackout theme for their Spirit Day, and you have a boy here painting his body, not randomly, but as to fit the theme of Scott County schools, which of course was blackout for that day. An obvious and clearly non-racist thing. And, like I said, it wasn't random. He wasn't attempting to do this to make fun of black people or anything like that. He wasn't acting like a black person while in blackface. He was literally painted just the color black for blackout. And, schools do this all the time. They do whiteout nights, they do blue outs, they do gold outs. The list goes on. And it's all done in order to show their school spirit. It gives kids a sense of pride and community within their own schools, to give them pride with their schools when they win. That way, they just might behave a bit better, take better care of the place, take more pride in getting to go to school. They're calling themselves a student, and so they act in a better way. However, according to the NAACP, this is now obviously, unequivocally, clearly, most apparently, and just in your face racism. Now, I do want to take this moment to preemptively apologize before the NAACP does some digging on me. Here's a photo of myself. I made the unfortunate decision to paint my face blue and gold. I was supporting my then girlfriend and now wife at a cross-country meet for her college, and I painted my face blue and gold. And I just want to, as I said, take a second here to apologize to all the humans that are blue and gold. My actions were insensitive. I was just trying to encourage my wife to run faster and win. I didn't realize at the time just how my actions could be so destructive to the blue and gold identifying people as I was trying to cheer on my wife and her team. It's unfortunate. I will do better next time. Now that that is out of the way, this is obviously and completely ridiculous. Last night, I was actually talking to someone about a video I did earlier this week. It seems a theme of this week is all these places and people finding racism where it doesn't exist, whether it was the city council seating chart, a police officer lip syncing to a country music song, and the list goes on and on. I did not do this on purpose, obviously. It just so happened to show up this way. And while I was talking to that person, I talked about what really bothered me most about the Hopkinsville story, and that was that a bunch of conservative people in conservative towns didn't stand up to a woke mob. Now, every city council person on Hopkinsville City Council is not a rhino or not a real Republican. I actually know a lot of them, and there's a good few of them who are good people. But there are some people on there that just aren't very conservative. And so it drives me crazy when we acquiesce to this woke mob that wants to call things racist that clearly aren't. My true frustration here is that these people, especially in conservative communities, aren't even willing to stand up to these out-of-control leftists, and instead they acquiesce and they grovel. So how did Scott County respond to the NAACP racist grift? Did they tell them to kick sand like they should have? No. Instead, they responded by being spineless and not standing up for their students. This is what they had to say when they released a statement. In the statement, they call out the students' behaviors insensitive to the African-American community. They said Scott County Schools does not promote or support discriminatory behavior of any type for any reason. What Scott County Schools does is educate our community. We cannot make Scott County the best place in the world to live and learn for everyone unless we're willing to acknowledge when we can do better. This is one of those moments, and we will rise to the occasion. Now, here's my question. Who's going to stand up for these kids? You've got a high school kid dressing up for Blackout Student Spirit Day, and now he's being called racist. I pulled this news, obviously, from a news website. You have this boy who just simply dressed up for Spirit Day. The idea of racism never even crossed his mind, because why would it? It's Blackout Day. They sell black skin suits. Like they sell, green suits and blue suits, those like, head to toe coverings. They sell black one of those. He didn't think anything of it. But now here he is, this poor kid, being called out, and his school isn't protecting him. No, his school is actually going along with this and calling him a racist. Imagine you were in high school, you're dressing up for Spirit Day, and now your high school is telling the media that you're a racist. When we're going to say enough, there is real racism in this world. Just like there's that piece of trash Nazi down in Florida. But the problem is when you attack simple things like a kid dressing up for Spirit Day as racist when it quite clearly isn't, it makes real racist incidences not receive the treatment it needs. You just push an entire population of high school students to now assume if someone is calling something racist, they're making it up or lying, because they're not blind. And while they are high school students, they occasionally have some common sense, and they know that there was nothing that kid was doing that was wrong. Maybe they're not willing to publicly say it, but deep down in their brains, they know. And then they've seen how it's treated. And you've made them more numb to the word racism because they saw what happened and it was no way racist. And now what are they to think? Other than the fact that their school and the adults in their community will not have their back and will not protect them. And the adults at their schools, especially in their school leadership, are more than willing to throw those children under the bus just so they don't have to sacrifice a few days or weeks of a woke mob being mad at them. Because we all know if they ignored it, simply stated this isn't racist, yes, maybe they would have had some outside agitators or some protests or what have you. But if they just stood by and said, guys, this is ridiculous, we know this isn't racist, let's just move on. Yeah, that would have been uncomfortable for a few weeks, but the world would have moved on, and those children in that school and this kid would have known that people will stand up for him when it's right. And there's no way you can convince me that the right thing to do here is to chastise kids for coloring themselves in black paint for School Spirit Day called Blackout Day. So what does the NAACP want to happen to the boy? Well, Whitaker, who apparently is, I think, the Lexington president of NAACP, he's a spokesperson for the NAACP in this case, says that he does think the boy should be written up, he should have to do some type of service and cultural and sensitivity training. Well, you know who needs training is Whitaker. He needs to learn the difference between what racism is and what racism isn't, so he can put his time, money, and efforts, and those are the people he's representing, towards actual racism that's going on and fighting it, instead of attacking a high school boy so he can feel relevant and important. Okay, so coming up, JCPS is talking about just simply not transporting kids to school. We'll have more on that right after this short break. So the JCPS superintendent, Marty Polo, said that we're going to have to make some tough decisions about who gets transportation and who doesn't. So here we are. We knew we were working up to this point, the point where JCPS just completely gives up on transporting kids altogether. They've already shown us their game plan of how they're going to justify this. They just don't have the resources. At over $19,000 a kid, it's just simply not enough. And it's apparently all the legislature's fault because, well, we just need more money and those mean old guys won't give it to us. Is it just their fault? Is it the legislature's fault because they need more money? Well, as we've covered a fair amount on this show, there is something the superintendent could do to make sure this operates entirely better. In fact, I don't think it's as much the amount of resources that JCPS is getting. I think it's simply put, they don't know how to manage the resources they have. And there's something else that the superintendent said in this statement, which indicates that that is the case. He said, this is also something he said that the district will do. The district is also beginning the search for an outside organization to complete an external review of what went wrong in the implementation of the transportation plan. He expects to have a contract ready for the board to be approved at the next meeting so that the review can begin. What a waste of money. I mean, if this isn't more of a clear reason why JCPS is so poorly ran, they cannot manage their resources. We already don't have the resources, apparently, supposedly, to transport the kids. But somehow we do have the resources to hire a consultant to oversee the work of a consultant that puts routes together for the people who are paid by the district to put routes together and to administer these things. We know they have way too many school employees and administrators, more than what's needed. And on top of that, they're now going to hire 2 companies to get involved with the bus making routes. I mean, it's not as if the reason isn't perfectly obvious to anybody with half a brain. I mean, here, you know what? JCPS could hire me. I only charge them like $1,000 or so. That'll save them the probably tens of thousands of dollars. They're being prepared to pay somebody else. And I'll just tell them exactly what happened. You didn't practice the routes before day 1 of school. That's it. That's the reason. That is the problem with your implementation process. You didn't practice the routes. I'll take my $1,000 now. And now you can put those tens of thousands of dollars into hiring more bus drivers and figuring this out. But that isn't what they actually want. See, they don't actually want a solution. They don't want to be told why they didn't get it right. See, this is not what consultants are for. See, consultants in government are for a very specific thing. You see, you hire a consultant to tell you what you already want to hear. Then, when you do the thing you already wanted to do, but if it goes badly, you can blame the consultant for giving you the suggestion. But if it goes well, now you can take the credit for hiring the consultant who gave you the proper suggestion. That is the entire reason why, even though problems that can be solved internally under internal and governmental leadership, they end up hiring a consultant, is simply a blame game. I'm not saying this just from pulling that from the sky. Many of government employees high up have told me and confirmed that that is exactly the case. That is why they hire consultants. And that's why this action here really outlines exactly everything that's wrong with JCPS. It's failed at its basic duties, like getting kids to school, because it has tons of wasteful expenditures, because it has leadership that doesn't want to take accountability for their actions and doesn't want to risk them being in trouble for the decisions they make. So while they make a calamity of errors, they can somehow continue to blame somebody else, whether it was the route making company, which already has failed to make routes in many districts. We've covered that in the podcast. And now, instead of just saying, well, it's simply our fault for hiring a person we shouldn't have, they're going to hire another person to tell them who they should really be able to blame. So I encourage every listener that lives in Louisville to go to the next school board meeting and point out how utterly ridiculous it is to have a school that's crying about how it doesn't have enough resources, even though it's spending well over $19,000 per student, to then have this school crying about resources, spending money on stupid things like this. The reason is obvious. Now fix it. Stop trying to blame everything else. Stop trying to shift responsibility. But as I said, this is a common thing we often see in government. And speaking of ridiculous things in government, Beshear's political theater has reached new heights. We'll have more right after this short break. So Beshear did a groundbreaking ceremony in Covington. Here's a picture of it at the One NKY Center. And so most of the time, these types of groundbreaking ceremonies are ginned up events anyways. But what they did here was they took some dirt and they made sure they poured it onto the pavement there. And then you see a line of people, one of those people there in the center, Annie Beshear, all with a shovel full of dirt, dressed up in a way that nobody who actually does any kind of groundbreaking would actually dress. The only thing missing here, of course, is the ceremonial hard hats that are there to not protect you from anything at all that was falling. Honestly, if we had it my way, these entire ridiculous groundbreaking ceremonies would end completely, because it's not just Andy Beshear. All these politicians gather to, quote unquote, break ground on projects that, well, honestly, most of the time it's private people who are getting them done in the first place, but it makes them feel important. And companies only do this in order to somehow build goodwill with those politicians who, with the snap of their fingers, could make life very difficult for them and make it to where they want to be able to operate. But that dirt, here's what happened to that dirt. And there it is. There's that dirt. So just a little bit later, that right there, that is topsoil. That is listed as free topsoil. That's right. The dirt that they used apparently wasn't even from the area. They didn't, sometimes they will scoop dirt that they're already going to claw up and put it down there, the construction companies, and then that creates the area for the ground breaking ceremony. So what they did is they poured the dirt onto the pavement. And this, for those of you listening to audio only, this is a Facebook marketplace listing for free topsoil on a parking lot that was the same dirt. And so unless, of course, perhaps maybe the construction company building this plans to use this type of function to remove all the dirt from the site where they just dig up, and they'll just offer it for free as a way to not have to carry it off. And maybe they can save some money that way. It is a difficult, of course, economy, instead of them actually moving the dirt themselves, which would be an honest thing. So that's just a little funny, right? He's doing this completely fake groundbreaking ceremony, and then they don't even have a company on hand to remove the dirt. Instead, they have to offer it for free on Facebook. But after that incredibly fake ceremony, he went over to another group that is incredibly fake, and that is the launch of the Kentucky Interfaith network, or KIN, as it's being called. What is KIN? Well, KIN, a stated purpose, according to their Eventbrite, they don't have a website anywhere, but according to their Eventbrite, is through quarterly summits and monthly open space collaboratives. KIN will connect faith communities from all traditions, grassroots organizations, and nonprofits to catalyze and facilitate collaborative action for substantial social transformation and well-being. That's according, of course, to their Eventbrite write-up about the event. No, if that sounds like a bunch of leftist mumbo jumbo, it is. You see, Beshear and other far-left Democrats have a problem. They do not actually believe in Judeo-Christian values. They may pretend to, they may proclaim to, but when rubber meets the road, they don't live that out in their life and in their policies. But they still need to act like they have Judeo-Christian values, especially in the South, if they want to win. So they attempt to redefine what Judeo-Christian values are. They use groups like this that use buzzwords like peace and unity. There are actually smoke screens for pushing things like critical race theory and gender ideology and creating it to be accepted by those who do hold actual Judeo-Christian values. They discard things that just get in their way, like Old Testament, and they try to convince everyone that real Christians would go against their faith and the Bible and be for all of those things. If they can only get enough people on the same page, though, enough people to buy into the lie. Now, this KIN event was organized, according to Facebook, by the Interfaith Paths to Peace Network, or IPP, another far-left organization that is attempting to use religious values, Judeo-Christian values, and wrap them up and warp them in order to get us to believe something that would go against our faith. Think I'm making it up. Let's just look at their officers. Not a single member of their board is from a Protestant religion. I believe they may have 2 Catholic people in their leadership, whether that's on their board or a part of their current officers. Now, there are 2 people on the board that I guess either have no religion at all. Perhaps they could be Christian religions. I do want to make sure I tell you about that, just in case I'm getting it wrong. Now, though this could be a Christian, stated Christian belief, I don't think the Sandra Irvin, who is an at-large member of the officers or the board there and calls herself or himself, don't want to assume, a minister for peace, comma, this is the title on their website, Minister for Peace, comma, Irving Goforth and Irvin LLC. Now, I don't think a minister for peace is typically what a Christian minister would call themselves. And also, I don't quite know what Irving Goforth and Irvin LLC has to do with it. After all, that is a management consultant company. So I guess maybe you're a minister of peace for a management consultant company. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And then another board member you have that isn't either Muslim or there's a few Muslim board members, maybe a Jewish board member too. But not a single Protestant Christian that I could see. Now, you do have a former minister or pastor, what have you, for a Unitarian evangelist church. Now, for those of you who don't know about this so-called church, and I'm putting that in quotations, Unitarians don't follow the Bible. They really don't follow anything at all. In fact, this is what they proclaim from their website. We are people of many beliefs and backgrounds, people with a religious background, people with none, people who believe in God, people who don't, and people who let the mystery be. That's just agnostic. But anyways, we are Unitarian Universalists and Buddhist, Christian, Hindu, humanist, Jewish, Muslim, pagan, atheist, and agnostic believers in God and more. So I guess it's just everything. And because it's everything, it's nothing at the same time. I mean, if you just want a leftist social club, just form a leftist social club. This is not a church. They may have people wear special garb and they may walk into a place. They try to look like a church. And I would be so interested to know what their hymns may sound like. But so while Beshear proclaims his commitment to faith, here he is aiding and abetting to groups of people like this who want to do nothing more than use the guise of interfaith religion, Judeo-Christian values, use that smokescreen, that mask, in order to tear down the same exact values they're using to cover themselves with. And Beshear proclaims that he supports Judeo-Christian values, but here he is helping out these groups. I mean, these are the people he does events with. These are his voters. This is who he is. A big phony who will co-opt our better natures and try to use vocabulary and a voice to get us to do things that will end up destroying everything that we proclaim to believe in as a community. Well, y'all, that's what we have time for today on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you back here. I know Monday is Labor Day technically, so I don't know if I'll have an episode on Labor Day or not. Probably. Yeah, we'll put out an episode on Labor Day. So we'll have an episode on Labor Day, so feel free to come back here Monday at 1 o'clock. Thank you all for listening to us. Once again, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day.